Hello friends and welcome to my channel Iballdesigningdeveloper. So like you all know that previously on we have covered up many of the things using C++ language, and I hope you enjoyed all the videos which we have covered up yet. So today in this video we will be learning about vectors in C++, like what are vectors, how to work on that, and basically what are the things which we have to use in vectors when we're starting with vectors in C++. So I hope you'll be enjoying this video from start. So if you enjoy this video and if you understand this amazing tutorial here, so remember to hit a like to this video, and if you're new on this channel, want to see more videos like that, so remember to subscribe, and after subscribing hit notification bell as well so you can get the notifications of all my coming up videos which I'll be uploading in future. So now what we are waiting for, let's move to computer screen and let's get started. So now we are on the computer screen, and like I've told you in the start that today in this video I will be telling you about vectors in C++, that what are vectors, how to use them, and basically what's the purpose to use these vectors in C++. If we talk about vectors, so basically a vector in C++ is like a resizable array. Like if I want to use any resizable array, so for that I will be using a vector in C++. Both vectors and arrays are data structures used to store multiple elements of the same data type. The difference between an array and a vector is that the size of an array cannot be modified. You cannot add or remove elements from an array. A vector, however, can grow or shrink in size as needed. To use a vector, you have to include the vector header file. So if we talk about vector normally, like in the previous video, I have telling you about data structures and STL. So like that, vector and arrays are also data structure, and we are using arrays and vectors to store multiple elements of the same data type. And the difference between array and vector is that like the size of array cannot be modified, while you cannot add any elements or remove any elements from an array as well. But if we talk about vectors, so vector can grow and vector can also shrink in size as we need it. So that's the difference between vector and array. Then if we talk about that how to use a vector in C++ file, so for that you need to add a vector header file, normally like we add in when we were just using different libraries, like when we were just using C time, in which we were adding date and time. So for that we were also using the C time library. So for that, if we want to include a vector in C++, and we need to use a vector header file here as well with this hashtag include. So I'll be using hashtag include vector so that I can add vector library, and then I can start creating a vector. Now we have to understand that if we have understand about vector, that what is vector here, so now we have to also understand about like how we can create a vector in C++. When we have started with this with the library, like we have understand how to include a vector library, now we have to understand how we can create a vector. So to create a vector, use the vector keyword and specify the type of values it should store within angle brackets, and then the name of the vector, like vector type, vector name. So like this you can create a vector. Then if we see the example, normally first of all we will be creating a vector normally, and after that I will be giving a vector keyword, and we have to specify the type of values it should store within angle brackets, which can be any value. Like I am writing a value as a string, and after that I will be giving the name of my vector. So like I have given here the name as cars to my vector, so it is a vector called cars that will store a string. So this car, which is a name of our vector, will be storing a string here, and this is the string which we will be storing. Now if you want to add elements at the time of declaration, place them in a comma separated list inside curly braces, just like with arrays. Now we have to add these things here so that we can just create a vector called cars, and it will store strings inside it. So this is the vector of cars which we have created with a string value, and in this string of, or sorry, you can say in this vector of cars, we have stored different string value, which is Volvo, BMW, Ford, Mazda. So these are the car names which I have stored in this string value, and we have stored all these string values in a vector called cars. You can give any of the name to your vector, it depends on you, but I am storing a string of cars, so that's why I'm giving the name to my list as cars. Now if I move down and if I want to understand that how we can print vector elements here, so for doing that you need to create a for loop, and in for loop I'll be creating a string with car, which is the vector name. So you can give any of your vector name here which you have written here. Remember, if I am using a vector name cars, so I will be defining that vector name here so that I can print that vector and I can get the output running these all strings which we have added. But if you write any other string name which you have not added here, so you will be getting an error, or your string will be not running. So remember to write all the things which you have written same as at the top. Now here we will be using count car as well, so that we can print our vector value and we can get output here. Then here it is the note. Note is like the type of the vector string in our example cannot be changed after it's been declared. So it's the simple thing, like I've told you here, that you have to write the vector name, like the type of vector, which should be as a string. Like you can give any of the name to your type of vector, but in our example it is a string, so it cannot be changed after it has been declared. Then if we talk about access a vector, that how you can access a vector. So you can access a vector element by referring to the index number inside square brackets. Vector like arrays are zero indexed, meaning that 0 is the first element, 1 is the second element, and so on. So these are the elements from which you can start the vectors like arrays. From 0 index it will be starting, and it means that the 0 is first element and 1 is the second element, and it will be moving so on. So if we talk about 0, this Volvo will be the 0 element, and then this BMW will be 1, Ford will be 2, and Mazda will be 3. So these are the values it will be starting from. So the index will be starting from 0 and it will be ending from any value which you have written the strings of. So that's the way to get the output of values printed as string. So if we get the value, like if I print out card 0, so the output you will be getting will be Volvo, because I have told you the index is starting from 0. And if I print the output as 1, so now the output which you will be getting will be as BMW. If I write the value as 1 in my console, sorry, in my text editor or in my file of C++. So if we move down and if we see one advantage of using vector library, it includes many useful functions. For example, you can access the first or the last element of a vector with the front and back functions, which is really good here. Like this is the advantage of vector library, and it includes many useful functions as well, and that's great. And if I move down, so this is another way from which you can access your element, or you can say you can access your specifier which you have added in your vector element. So if we move down and if we have to understand how to add vector element, so you can just see that how we are adding vector element. We have understand that how we are adding vector strings here, but if you understand about vector element, so you can just see that how we have added a vector element. We have given the name to our vector as cars, and then after that I have to add a value as dot pushback, in which I'll be writing a value of element in my vector, and then the vector element which I have added will be printed in my output. Now this is the element here, like how you can remove vector elements. So these are the elements from which you can remove different vector elements here. And then if I move down here, so this is the vector size, how you can manage the vector size. You can use dot size function there, so to manage the size of your vector which you are adding in your file here. And these are the different way to use vectors, and you can also loop through a vector. So these are some things which you can do with vector, and I hope you understand how we are working with it. So now I'll be just starting with the real example here. So I'll be just copying this thing from here now, and after doing that you can just copy from here. After doing these all things, what I'm going to do is now I will be just moving on to my Google Chrome here, and you all know that previously on we were using our IDE which was like Replit. So I'll be opening my Replit IDE from here, and after that I will be just creating a REPL here. So we have already created a date and time in C++ REPL, but I will be changing the topic here, and now in this video I'm telling you about some things in data structure algorithm, like we have covered up in the previous video of data structure and STL. So in this video, like I have told you, I will be telling you about vectors. So I'll be writing here vectors in C++ like this, and I'll be pressing enter to save this file. After saving this file, you can just see we are getting all the things here, but I'll be removing this, and I will be writing include iostream. And after that I will be removing here, I'll be moving down and I'll be writing using namespace std. Then I'll be moving down again, and here I will be creating a init main function. In that I will be pasting all the things which I have copied. So the first thing which we have pasted here is create a vector called cars that will store strings, and this is the string which we will be storing, and now the value which we will be returning will be as 0 normally. But if we talk about this vector, so this vector is giving me an error. And why this vector is giving me an error? Because we have printed the vector value first. So I'll be moving here now, and if I just move down and if I want to start with these all things, so this is the example to use all these things here again and again, but I will be now using these all things normally here. So for using this, I will be printing another thing which is hashtag include, and then I will be writing as vector. And now after doing these all things, I will be now running this thing. If I run this, so we have to get the output as these files printed. So if I run it here, you can just see now the output we are getting is all these lists printed here, which is Volvo, BMW, Ford and Mazda, like we have written in our string value. So I hope you understand how we are getting the output. But remember to do one thing, like when you have added all these things, before that you have to check that you have added the vector header file or not. If you have not added, so you have to add it so that you can run these all things. You can just do that normally in your VS Code file as well if you are working with an offline text editor, and you can do with any other text editor file as well, like I am doing with Replit because I'm using online environment. So I don't need to add. If I don't add this, nothing will happen. But in offline IDE like VS Code and Atom, Sublime Text things, so there you have to add the libraries like I have added here, which is called as header file of vector. So there you have to add so that you can get the down things printed in the output. But now if I just use a different example here, another one example, if I just show you, was the thing which we were printing with the numbers. So I will be moving at the top here. So this was the value which we were just printing here. So I'll be just copying this now. After copying, I'll be just printing here. So I'll be just pasting it here. And then if I just run it, so after running now, the output you will be getting will be Volvo and BMW. So if I run it here, you can just see we are getting two output as Volvo and as BMW. So I will be giving a space as well. I'll be writing here like this, L. And after writing this, I will be moving down, and here as well, I'll be writing same thing as L so that I can get one line after every output which we are printing here. Run it, and now you can just see after Volvo we are getting one line space and it is saying me BMW. So why we are getting these two things printed? Because as I told you in a start that in C++ the index is starting from 0. That's why the Volvo is considered as 0, and when I'm printing 0, so I'm getting the output as Volvo at first, and then after that when I'm printing 1, so 1 is BMW, that's why the output we are getting is BMW here. But if I change it to 2 and if I run it again, so the output will be changed, and the output which we will be getting now will be as Ford. If I run here, you can just see the output we are getting here in the place of BMW is now Ford. So I hope you understand how we are getting the output printed and how we are getting all these things working. So I hope you understand about vector, like how we can start with vector. Before starting, how we have to add a header file of vector. So if you have understand all the things about vector, and if you enjoyed this video of C++ from start, so remember to hit a like to this video. And if you're new on this channel, want to see more videos like that, so remember to subscribe, and after subscribing, hit notification bell as well so you can get the notifications of all my coming up videos which I'll be uploading in future. And in coming up videos, I'll be telling you more about other things in C++ which we use, and I hope you'll be enjoying that things as well. So I'll be meeting you next tutorial or in next project of C++ soon. So for today, goodbye.